In the quiet suburbs, a devoted family man discovers a mysterious drum leaking toxic sludge behind his home, unaware that it's no ordinary waste, but the harbinger of an otherworldly horror that will consume his wife, his desires, and his very soul, forcing him to feast on the father's seed to birth something unimaginable. Two seductive serial killers prowl the night, luring handsome men to their doom with twisted games of torture and death until they pick up Larry, a seemingly easy mark who turns the tables when the full moon reveals his true nature. A vengeful werewolf, hungry for more than just flesh. Let's begin. My God, Smith thought, this is my wife. He'd lain her out naked across the bed. Her nipples looked like bruises now, and her skin, every inch of which he'd once caressed in love, glittered pastily beneath the gelid sweat of death. My wife. The bivolving scalpel flashed in his hand. I'm autopsying my wife. Smith took a heavy breath. Then he began to cut. Jeannie, don't go near that, Smith shouted. He clambered clumsily after her down the wooded hill, careful of stumps and roots hidden under leaves. Whatever that thing was in the ravine, a keg, he wondered, a drum. It just looked nasty. It wasn't supposed to be there, and he didn't want his daughter touching it. Jeannie, he shouted once more. Jeannie gladly pretended not to hear these heated comments of her father, as would most 7-year-olds. Instead, she nimbly wended through branches and brush and descended into the ravine. The thicket crunched beneath Smith's plodding feet. 2 decades of a pack of parliaments a day reminded him how out of shape he was. Some doctor, but at least his patients couldn't accuse him of hypocrisies. He loped ahead, gasping, and raised his arms to shield himself from the spiny branches that seemed determined to thwart his progress. Smith was a liberal. He was also an overreactor. He remembered any number of headlines detailing his worst ecological fears. Waynesville cancer rates found to be 3 times higher than national average. AA County fined millions for secretly pumping untreat. Jeannie gladly pretended not to hear these heated comments of her father, as would most 7-year-olds. Instead, she nimbly wended through branches and brush and descended into the ravine. The thicket crunched beneath Smith's plodding feet. 2 decades of a pack of parliaments a day reminded him how out of shape he was. Some doctor, but at least his patients couldn't accuse him of hypocrisies. He loped ahead, gasping, and raised his arms to shield himself from the spiny branches that seemed determined to thwart his progress. Smith was a liberal. He was also an overreactor. He remembered any number of headlines detailing his worst ecological fears. Waynesville cancer rates found to be 3 times higher than national average. A county fined millions for secretly pumping untreated sewage into bay. Brock Cliff's nuclear wastewater seeps into reservoir, and so on. Smith, as a father, felt legitimately paranoid of the faux pas of this new age of progress. Just nights ago, he'd read in the Post about containers of toxic waste that had fallen off a truck near an Edgewood elementary school. Some teenagers had opened one of the containers and had died in hours. Then there was that town up north. An entire community evacuated when cable TV diggers had uncovered a secretly buried consignment of binary waste products, complements of the U.S. Army Chemical Corps. The stuff had been there 20 years. No wonder the town's miscarriage and birth defect rates had been so high. What a world, Smith considered. And this thing in the ravine, it looked like a chemical drum of some sort, with bright red stripes like a warning. Smith had spotted it from the back porch with his binoculars. Bird watching, he always told Marie. "Oh, that's nice, dear," she'd said once. "It's wonderful that you haven't lost interest in your childhood hobbies." This was partly true at any rate. Smith had indeed been an avid birdwatcher as a child. The only thing he watched now, however, was that Donna What's-Your-Name next door, the neighbor's kid. On days she didn't have classes at the community college, she'd lie out in her backyard to work on her tan. What she also worked on was Smith's libido. Jesus Christ, he must have thought a million times, focusing the Bushnell 7X12s. It astounded him, the level to which modern swimwear had reverted. Bikinis these days made the ones Marie had worn years ago look like winter parkas. Smith had a funny feeling that Donna What's-Your-Name knew he was watching her. The poses seemed staged, lewd, nearly masturbatory. Too often the girl would untie her top and idly roll toward Smith's gaze, her eyes closed as if sleepy. Donna was, to put it eloquently, well-possessed of an ample mammalian carriage. Or in Smith's less eloquent consensus, good Christ and Lord Almighty, that is one humdinger of a rack of milk wagons, all of which had fairly little to do with the bizarre white drum that sat not 100 yards beyond his property line. He'd been focusing up, the usual ritual upon coming home from work, while Marie prepared dinner. Donna sauntered across her own yard as if on cue, all long tan legs, curvy contours, and mammalian carriage. Jesus Christ, Smith muttered, the binoculars close to welded to his eyes. The chickens will see my father look all the time. She ain't wearing a bikini. She's wearing dental floss. What's that, dear? Smith jerked the Bushnells quickly toward the woods. Mari had come out onto the patio, looking domestic as ever in her rosy slippers, lilac sundress, and calico apron. And while we tell you a Christian moment, the watch will play with fire. A black-throated blue warbler. Smith feigned enthusiasm. What, a female too. You can tell by the pink spot on each wing. They're rare for this area. Oh, that's nice, dear. Her broad, pretty face shifted in a blink of fuddlement. I could have sworn you said something about dental floss. Anyway, dinner'll be ready in 10 minutes. Have you seen Jeannie? No, Smith replied, never veering his gaze from the scape of the woods. She's probably watching those Star Trek reruns, as usual. Either that or she's in her room playing with her Kirk and Spock dolls. Marie disappeared back to the kitchen, leaving Smith slightly asweat. Be careful, you idiot. Yes, he'd have to be more careful than this. He felt no shame in his frequent voyeurisms. Looting's not cheating, he rationalized. It wasn't like he was having sex with Donna, was it? He was merely reveling in the visual appreciation of her womanhood. What was wrong with that? This was no different than birdwatching, espying pretty things in nature, celebrating them. Donna Dental Floss was a rare black-throated blue warbler, and nothing more. This horrifying consequence reflected an even deeper terror in Jeannie's shining child eyes. She paused, peering at the white drum, then backed off. She ascended the ravines that she sloped while Smith himself went down. Stay there, he said, pointing a stem finger. But why is it dirty, Daddy? It just is, came his articulate response. He plodded toward the cryptic keg. How can you explain something like this to a 7-year-old? Well, you see, honey, some really bad man decided to dump this drum of tumor-accelerating carcinogenic ganglionic-response inhibiting and probably irradiated toxic effluvium in our backyard because he was too lazy to dispose of it properly. And it's dirty, dirty stuff, and that means if you get near it, your orbital lobes will turn into giant coaxial metastatic masses by the time you're out of college, and your ovaries will be glowing like a pair of fucking Christmas tree lights. It's dirty, honey, he replied instead. It's like dog poo. You don't want to get near it. Her little face looked cruxed, but you're getting near it. Smith frowned, choosing a long fallen limb. That's because I'm a grown-up, and grown-ups are allowed, but little girls aren't. That's dumb, Daddy, came Jeannie's haughty response. Precocious, Smith thought. The drum, he saw now, had no writing on it, just the bright scarlet stripes, which made sense. If you're going to dump hazardous waste illegally, you don't leave your name and address. And he was sure now that's what it was. The drum sat on its side as if dropped. At once Smith noticed a meaty scent, like rotten pork, he thought. His nostrils cringed, or like that cadaver the county cops brought in last summer. It had ripened in the heat for days, hidden beneath humid hay bales. Cooking, the drum's rim appeared crimped, offering a small egress. Smith poked the branch into it and pushed. Ah, shit, he exclaimed, and leapt back. The lid popped off, emptying a gush of black lumpy sludge into the ravine's crawl. Smith could have vomited. The stuff stank worse than a fish market dumpster in high summer. He gaped at it a moment, his handkerchief to his face. The sludge looked coagulated like gravy that hadn't evened. Large bubbles rose from the surface of the spill, percolating, and the stench thickened. Thank God the creek had long since dried up, otherwise the stream would be hauling this gunk away right now. Smith felt momentarily weird staring at the crisp, popping bubbles. His sweat rushed the mass of ichors seemed to waft shifts of heat. Come on. Smith huffed back up the hillock and led Jeannie away from the ravine. He took long strides, yanking her by the hand. Boy, this pisses me off, he phoned. I got a kid, for God's sake. Some chemical company asshole dumps this crap near kids. Yeah, what a world. "I saw a falling star, Daddy," Jeannie remarked as they headed back to Smith's cedar-shingled colonial. It cost $150,000 in a nice cul-de-sac. Smith worked hard for it and for everything to keep his family comfortable, and then some thoughtless creep pulls a stunt like this. Word gets around and the whole community could go low hell. Smith envisioned the headlines. "Toxic waste dumped in Storybook Town. Property values plummet. Assholes," he thought. "What did you say, honey?" But it wasn't really a star, she enlivened on. "It was that drum. I saw it last night." "You saw Star Trek last night is what you saw. You saw Star Trek last night." Kids, Smith thought. Then they were back at the house, back to normality. "Dinner's ready," he said. "Don't forget to wash your hands." He'd reported the incident to the police anonymously. He didn't need a slew of questions. "With my luck, they'll think I had something to do with it." Smith reasoned that whoever had dumped the sludge had brought it down the old logging road on the other side of the tree belt, and that's what the authorities would conclude. That night he slept fitfully, dragged in and out of chasms of dreams. He never had bad dreams. His job had cauterized him since med school. Smith was the county coroner, and after so many years of autopsying human grotesqueries, atop his Amesworth pitch-tilt power drain moored table, he could eat a tuna on rye with one hand and fish through gunshot intestinal vaults with the other. No big deal. Tonight, however, tow lines of nightmares hauled him through rank mind-muck visions, the likes of which his slumber had never before offered up. "She's eating. Daddy, she's eating. Isn't Mommy pretty when she eats?" Jeannie smiled in her Care Bear pajamas, gazing down into the nighted ravine. Meanwhile, Smith's wife knelt naked at the open drum. With enthusiasm, she plucked lumps out of the stinking black spillage and sucked them off her fingers. Moonlight shimmered through the trees, a tinsel vertigo. Jeannie's eyes shined wide as brand new silver dollars. "Eat, Mommy, eat." "I'd eat too, but I'm too little." Smith wanted to puke in the dream. Yeah, bend over and let her rip. It was not an easy thing to watch your extremely inhibited wife eat lumps of chemical shit out of a bubbling, odorous mass of toxic waste. No, this was not an easy thing to watch at all. "Oh, it tastes simply scrumptious, dear," Madashri remarked. "You really should try some." "No thanks, hon. That stuff says probably not on the Atkins diet. Daddy can't eat that." Jeannie was quick to relate, which relieved Smith in his dream Paris. He seemed to be lashed to a tree, forced to watch this disgusting play of nightmare in his boxer shorts. "The mother," Jeannie kept chanting from the hillock's edge. "The mother, the mother." Freud would shit in his pants if he could see this dream. Smith managed to muse. He fairly understood the psychology of dreams, eroto-societal symbolism, sex-death links, and all that. But sex-sludge links? He wondered. What did this scenario say about himself? It came as no surprise when, next, Donna, the lissom neighbor of the dental floss bikinis, traipsed down into the hot ravine. She too was buck naked, and she wasted no time in joining Marie's putrid smorgasbord. Donna can eat too. Jeannie rejoiced. It's only Daddy who can't eat. Not here. The dream seemed to peel Smith's eyelids off. Freud's manifestos forced him to watch. Good God, he thought aghast. Donna and Marie openly caressed themselves in the lump-laden bilge. They were kissing. "Here," Marie invited. She passed a lump, about the size of a walnut, from her own mouth into Donna's. "More," Donna panted. Good God, Smith thought again. Would somebody please wake me up? Marie, lying back in the black scum, had placed more of the lopsided lumps up and down her belly and betwixt her breasts for Donna to eat off. "Your husband's got a hard one for me," Donna commented between morsels. "Don't get your hopes up." Marie laughed back, caressing herself in the slime. "He comes way too fast, and he's not very big. Sort of like one of those little breakfast lynx." They cackled at this remark, like witches breathing helium. Smith fumed, in spite of his revulsion. "Breakfast link, huh? God, this stuff is really boss." Donna delighted. Soon, when she and Smith's wife had sufficiently filled their bellies, they focused their appetites on each other. Smith was sweating. This was like the lesbian porno flicks they'd shown at his bachelor party, only they hadn't included curdled toxic sludge in the production. Donna and Marie slivered over one another in the muck, beslicking their bodies. They shined like black human lacquer. "Isn't this great, Daddy?" Jeannie inquired, clapping with glee in the moonlight. "No," Smith thought, "this is not great." "Oh," Marie cooed. "You do it so much better than my husband." Smith frowned. Donna's face, amid a sound quite similar to that of a big, hungry dog tearing into a pile of Alpo, busied its dashed self between Marie's spread legs. Smith didn't know how much more of this he could take. It's only a dream," he dismissed. "You'll have to eat too, Daddy," his daughter informed him again. "But not here. Not at the mother's." "What the hell are you talking about, you little imp?" Smith thought in a burst of frustration. But then Marie and Donna were drifting up the ravine's slope. Giggling, they took Smith away from the tree and lay him down paralyzed into the sludge. "Not too much," Marie warned as her hands roved her husband's rather flabby chest. "I told you, he comes real fast." Smith frowned again. When he glanced past his burgeoning belly, he noted that Donna was filleting him, and via a considerable level of proficiency. The co-ed stopped a moment, disengaging her mouth long enough to chuckle and remark, "You're right, Marie, it is like a breakfast link." This infuriated Smith further. "What? A guy's gotta have a leg of lamb between his legs to keep a woman happy? Christ. He's close. You better get on him now," the Donna suggested. The sludge crackled as Marie prepared to mount him. But then it was Smith's daughter's face that bulged forward, warped in cherubic youth like a fisheye lens. "No," the demanding little voice echoed. "Daddy's not ready yet. Daddy has to visit the father." Smith spent the next day at work hungover. At least that's what it felt like, a bezeled drill bit spinning through the pulp of his brain. He'd stopped drinking years ago. He'd opened too many Park Davis cadaver bags, lull of too many mangled drunk drivers, and he'd histologized too many swollen, sclerotic livers too many times. Yet his head pounded all day. Splinters raged behind his eyes. The dream, he kept thinking. The nightmare. He saw the heinous black wads everywhere. In the autoclave, in the chromograph receptacle, on the flat top of the Vision Series blood analyzer, and in the morgue table's stainless steel runoff gutters. He even saw them in the polar water bottle and in his lunch. But only for an instant. When he blinked, they were gone. Backwash, that was all. Nightmare had run him out. "Get your act together, Smith." He'd bungled 2 sections already today and had to chink the autopsy reports. Thank God Smith's clients could tell no tales. He hadn't been so off the mark in years. Eventually, he dismissed the dream as frivolity, just a lewd mind stage of fear and guilt. Fear that a drum of chemical waste had been dumped behind his house, and guilt from his voyeurism. He felt much better about the whole thing when he called home that afternoon. The police were out back earlier, Marie related, and then some cars with EPA seals came. They took the drum away in a big truck. It was like a movie. Men in gas masks and white rubber suits were poking around. They sprayed some kind of foam all around the ravine and left notices in everybody's mailbox saying that the area is safe and there's nothing to worry about. What? This news relieved Smith fully. The white drum was gone now, and its black spillage decontaminated. End of story. But not end of headache. When Smith drove home, he spotted Donna walking away from the bus stop. "Need a lift?" he offered. "I can't stop." "Sure, thanks," she replied, and slid into Smith's big Buick. Her blonde head cocked, though, and she peered at him. "Are you all right, Mr. Smith? You look like, I don't know, like you're all tensed up or something, Mr. Smith." Christ, she makes me feel like a dinosaur. It will last. I've had a rip-roaring headache all day, that's all. "Well, wait. Put the car in park," she oddly suggested. "Come back, Will." "Why?" She slid right next to him, smiling. "The chickenator knows what's on. I'll rub your temples." Smith blushed. What did they say? I'm kind of like, married." Donna laughed lackadaisically. "Not called me father, Mr. Smith. Letting a girl rub your temples isn't exactly what I'd call being unfaithful." Smith considered this, trying hard not to stare at Donna's cutoffs and orange halter. Yeah, she's right. What's the harm in letting her rub my temples?" Smith pulled over, put the Buick in park. Bust. Okay. The Chickenator. I have my breath to disappear. Turn this way. Lean back a little. The 19-year-old directed. Listen to me. That's it. That's good. Smith leaned back against Donna's formidable bosom, while her thumbs gently massaged his temples. Her breasts felt like firm, plush cushions against his shoulder blades. Smith's eyes closed on their own. He struggled to make petty conversation. Donna, tell me, how's college? Right, she replied. Rubbing. Now wait so long. How's bird watching? Smith gulped. Great. I saw a black-throated blue, warbler yesterday. She said. Did she chuckle too? Still rubbing, she went on. That's wild about that drum of chemicals they found, isn't it? Rubbing. Yeah, Smith fairly moaned. Wild. Her deft thumbs continued to meet Smith's aching temples. Christ, I'm getting hard, he noted of the swelling at his groin. He felt lazed back into the Sleetostrine. Her blonde hair smelled lovely, like herbs and soap. Then her lips came very close to Smith's ear, and she whispered, Does that feel good, Mr. Smith? Yes, Smith moaned. Her lips moved closer, the hot breath caressing his ear. Has Mr. Smith been a good boy? Oh, Jesus, Smith thought. He felt as paralyzed as he'd felt in the nightmare. Whom? You can tell Donna, can't you? Has Mr. Smith been a good boy? Her thumbs were like main lines of opium to his brain. Her breath seemed to lick his neck. Be a good boy now, and tell Donna that you're ready, okay, baby? Are you ready? Have you been a good boy? By now, Smith could not offer a verbal reply. He moaned some more, and he may have whined. But Donna reclined the power seat. As Smith descended, he saw that the co-ed had removed her orange halter, and his recognition of this fact dripped like slow molasses in his head. Holy Jesus to fog and Pete, what a rack of milk wagons. And indeed they were. Large, perfectly symmetrical orbs of flesh with pert pink nipples. Let's get you primed, Mr. Smith, she suggested, giggling. Let's get this pump good and primed. And with that statement, her hands began to caress his crotch. Yeah, we're gonna get Mr. Smith all boned up, because Mr. Smith's been a good boy, hasn't he? Smith raised no objection whatsoever when, a moment later, she pulled his pants and boxers to his knees. Her finned ears caged his testicles, and her mouth went south. Smith wanted to shout, No, don't do that. I'm a warned man, and I love my wife, and I will not be unfaithful to her. So you just stop that right now. In reality, though, he uttered no such thing, electing instead to just lie back and let her proceed. And indeed, she did proceed, with hair-raising expertise. But that's not easy. She kept moaning in her throat. Tommy Brothers. The hot frictive sensation made him feel electrified. Her mouth was a 220-fold wall socket, and Smith's penis was the plug. Her firm grapefruit's breasts prodded his thigh as she maintained the slow, excruciating ministration. At one point, Smith gazed down over his paunch, and she gazed up, desisting long enough to remark of his 4-inch erection. Fuck. Well, oh, Mr. Smith, it's just so big. Smith made a stiff face, recalling the nightmare. No, it's not. It's a breakfast link, remember? And he could have sworn that, when she'd made this comment, there'd been an undue hilarity in her eyes. Look at me, he thought, self-gusted. I'm a successful 39-year-old man, with a great career, a great wife, a great kid, a great life. And what am I doing? I'm getting a blowjob from a blonde teenage sexpot in the front seat of a Buick Regal. Yet despite this acknowledgence, he was helpless to do anything about it. He was risking everything, wasn't he? If he got caught, he would lose everything he cherished, everything he'd worked so hard for. But Donna was a seductress, a sex siren. Smith felt that he'd be unable to pull away from this, even with a gun to his head. All he could do was simply submit to this harrowing, absolutely mind-wringing oral mastery of hers. And just before Smith would ejaculate, she stopped. What the hell are you doing? Smith wanted to bellow. Why on earth had she stopped? Her eyes beseeched him. The sultry face in the frame of fragrant blonde hair rose upward. You've been a good boy. Right, Mr. Smith. You're ready, right? Smith, infuriated, gasped at the ludicrous question, pointing to his indisputably erect member. For God's sake, doesn't it look like I'm ready? His voice grated. She papped his nose with a finger. That's not what I mean, Mr. Smith. Her lips played at his ear. What I mean is, are you ready? The word dropped like a stone in his head. Ready. Are you ready? Smith's memory ticked. The nightmare. Jeannie? What had Jeannie said in the nightmare? Something about being ready. Yes. Donna's preenient breasts vised his face. Her fingers weaved through his hair. Oh, Mr. Smith, she whispered. Please tell me that you've been a good boy. Please tell me that you're ready. Ready? Yeah, I was ready. All right. You teasing, fickle bitch, Smith thought, driving the Buick home. How much more ready could he have been? Cock tease, evil cunning slut. She'd brought him to the brink, then left him hanging like clothes on a line. She primed my pump, that's for sure. Then she'd left. Smith, incredulous, had stared after her as she'd opened the car door, gotten out, and walked away, leaving him with his pants at his knees and his unslaked erection bobbing in his lap. Women are such evil bitches, he glumly thought. Cock-teasing, evil, fickle little harlots. His headache raged when he arrived home. Jeannie lay before the TV in the family room, her little ankles crossed in the air. She raptly watched Star Trek reruns. They stole Spock's brain. Daddy, she fretted upon his entrance. Tough luck for Spock, Smith thought. He remembered the Chickinator, who was already in mind. Wasn't the Chickinator in mind? I smiled. Don't worry, honey. I think Bones will save the day, he consoled. How about taking my brain along with this fucking headache? I hope they catch the slobs who dumped that crap. Smith griped to his wife, who tended to dinner at the Jen Air range. I mean, Christ, couldn't they have dumped it in Jersey like everyone else? I'm sure they'll catch them, dear, Marie assured. So why don't you just relax? When Smith sat down at the table, Marie came around to rub his temples. So love me. No bird watching tonight, dear. No, Smith said, swallowing his guilt like a lump of phlegm. How's that headache? It's... Then Smith paused. He hadn't told her of his headache, had he? You shall not fall to death. How did you know I had a headache, honey? Rubbing. Wild when? You told me this afternoon. This afternoon, Smith questioned. I'll be safe again. This afternoon when you called me. Remember? You called me to ask if anyone had come about the drum, and I told you the police were here, and the EPA men. Yeah, Smith said. I remember. Sorry, this headache's killing me. I'm just out of it today. Out of it was putting it lightly. And Marie's affection, her sheer care for him, made Smith feel even worse now. 15 minutes ago, I was letting a blonde co-ed suck my dick, and she didn't even do it long enough for me to come. What was wrong with him? The gifts of his life couldn't be more plain. His loving life, his lovely little girl, his home. All right. So Marie would never make the cover of Swimwear Illustrated. Her breasts, not nearly as large as Donna's, had a bit of droop to them now, and she was getting a trail wide in the caboose department. But she'd stuck with him through thick and thin. She'd given him a beautiful daughter and a beautiful life. She was real, and her love was real. How could anything else matter? The girl next door was just something pretty, a bird in a sense. A black-throated blue warbler no more real to Smith than the August centerfold of Penthouse. At once his guilt fell down on him, like a mineshaft cave-in. Marie, he peeped. Yes, dear. Rubbing. What is it? Smith was suddenly close to tears. Well, I feel only about my past. I am to make it as mine, but I am living. Honey, what is it? My God, Smith realized. Oh my God, I love you. I love you too. Marie said. No, I mean, but what did he mean? I mean, like, I really love you. Marie's voice seemed to grow hot. Her fingers meandered at his temples. Why don't you show me? She whispered. Fuck dinner, Smith concluded. He led Marie by the hand up the stairs to the bedroom. He slowly stripped her, reveling at the vision of her body. Pale skin and cellulite and crooked teeth and all. Make love to me, darling. She hardly breathed. She lay back on the bed, parting her thighs. And what she said next absolutely shocked him, for Marie had never been one to talk dirty. "I want your cock in my pussy, darling. I want you to stick your cock all the way up my pussy and come in me." The words alone nearly made Smith come. The words in addition to Donna's previous attentions. Yeah, she primed my pump. Ale right, but to hell with her. I have a loving wife. I have a real woman. Stick your cock in me right up to the balls and come, you big beautiful flicking love machine. Squirt all that wonderful jizz right up into my little honey hole. Smith was dizzied. He lay atop her and obliged. At once her hand slithered around and massaged his buttocks. One false lift. "Come, baby, come," she breathed. One sown. "Come in my pussy, darling." Shit. Smith was going to come. All right. Quite expeditiously, he tried to stave it off. Think about baseball. Mantle's 500th homer, which Smith had seen with his dad. Maris breaking Ruth's record, and Catfish Hunter's first 20-win season. Boy, could the Catfish throw a spitter. But it didn't work. How could it? This was love, not childhood baseball memories. After a strenuous, sweat-popping 5 seconds, Smith ejaculated, exhaling like a busted raft. Marie moaned with each pulse, wrapping her legs about his back. "Oh, honey." Smith nearly wept into the crook of her neck. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And what a cruel ripoff this was. Smith generally lasted at least half a minute. Punishment, he thought. His guilt continued to assail him. Yes, the universe was punishing him for being with Donna, decimating his already less than impressive endurance. "I'm so sorry, Marie." Her warm hand played over his scalp. "That's all right, dear. I know." Smith's heart skipped a beat. She knows, he thought in sheer terror. She knows about Donna, but then he simmered down. No, she didn't know about that. How could she? She merely meant that she understood Smith's problem with premature ejaculation. She was so understanding, so considerate. What a woman, Smith realized, as drenched in shame as he was sweat. But, yes, there was something he could do for her, wasn't there? Smith slithered down. "Ooh, sweetheart." Marie cooed lewdly. "You know exactly what I want, you dirty little sex muffin." Yeah, Smith thought. Here was this wonderful, warm, passionnée woman who'd offered herself solely for Smith's pleasure. Now he would return the gesture. Her white thighs opened before his face like a newspaper. Her fingers raked his hair, while her own hair, her private hair, tickled around Smith's mouth. Suddenly, he felt bent on something, frantic in the taste of her, compelled, driven. "That's it, sweetheart. That's so good," she breathed. "You do it so good, you big love tongue. You." The synchronicity of Smith's tongue against her pleasure quickened in increments. He chased her squirming hips across the bed. Smith kissed, licked, lapped, dash. "So good, sweetheart." Kissed, licked, lapped. I'll say, so good. So good. Such a kissed, licked, lapped. Good boy. Smith's eyes bulged. A good boy. Hadn't Donna said the exact same thing? But before he could even reckon such a coincidence, Marie seemed to gasp, and her body seemed to tremor. Smith's mouth remained locked at her sex when the septic stench rose. Marie gasped again, then her hips twitched. Then, holy motherfucking shit, several hard, steady dolphin spurts of the stinking black sludge shot into his mouth. He wedged away in shock, paused to bend over and vomit, and when he raised his head again, a final pulse of sludge jettisoned right in his face. Over the rise of her breasts, Marie's eyes fixed on him. "You didn't," she gargled. Smith stared, frozen in disgust. Marie craned her neck further, her face wavering. "I feel this warm me." "You weren't ready, were you?" she gushed. It sounded like an accusation. "Chickenator. God damn you. You were supposed to be ready." Then her eyes rolled up white, and her head fell back. "Ready," Smith thought. His face dripped. Madness. The sea lions gaped at him as he tried to bring her back. No pulse, no breath. He straddled her. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. His thoughts counted off in CPR. With each downward thrust, more black slime eddied from each orifice. Popping black bubbles frothed at her lips, ears, and nostrils. Then the truth slammed him in the face as hard as the insanity of this entire situation. "She's dead," he whispered. It was too much. too fast. All rationale escaped him. His psyche felt stuffed, like a Szechuan squid stuffed to bursting. Marie seemed to be on the verge of bursting too. Movement churned beneath her pale, dead belly. Revulsion, shock, etc. cut Smith's spiritual tether, leaving only his objective remains. Smith the coroner. Smith the man who autopsies dead people for a living. It was impulse now, in this moment of intractable impossibility. He went for his old med school bag in the closet and his old CMS knife set. Thoughts swarmed, but he didn't really hear them. The sharp bivoling blade flashed. "Oh, God," he muttered, cutting. "Ah, no." The incision stretched as he drew the gleaming blade from hip to hip, exuding a goulash of black lumps. She was a doll stuffed with beans. Out they poured as Smith watched, slow black lava sliding over the sides of the bed. Lumps, he thought. The drum, the sludge, the lumps began to dissolve, reverting to thin dark slime. Upon their exposure to the air, they crackled, sputtering. The stench rose like steam from a corpse pit. Lumps, he thought. My wife, dead lumps. I wasn't a good boy. I wasn't ready. The door slung open behind him. The thin shadow played across the floor. "Oh, Daddy, now look what you've done," sniped the irritated little voice of his daughter. "You weren't ready, were you?" "No," Smith muttered, thinking of the dream. "No, I wasn't. I'm sorry. I wasn't ready." "Daddy," she scowled at him, arms crossed in her flannel pajamas. "You've been a bad boy." I know. Come on," she huffed. Her little hand led him from the bedroom, down the quiet stairs, and outside. Crickets trilled. Legions of fireflies shifted their tiny lights against a sultry evening. Smith, naked, enslimed, followed Jeannie down the hill behind his house. The woods, he thought. The ravine. But hadn't Marie said that they'd taken the drum away? "Hurry, Daddy." Branches scratched his face and chest, but he didn't feel it. Dappled moonlight lit their progress. The forest was a labyrinth. With each step came more and more of some throbbing revelation, like Marie's abdominal wall before Smith had riven it open, and like the throbbing headache. The ravine lay empty, save for crusts of the decontaminant foam they'd sprayed. Jeannie had to constantly wait up for him, like the time he'd taken her to the mall to see Santa. But it was not Santa that awaited him now. Smith could feel it drawing on his brain, calling him. The father, came the strange thought. You were supposed to visit the father first, Daddy. But you didn't, and that's why the mother's babies died in Mommy. Yes, Smith droned. 100 yards past the ravine, Smith could see it. A drum, identical to the first, save that it was black instead of white. Black and white, Smith thought. Yin and yang, mother and father. He gazed down, male and female. Smith knelt before the drum. Its lid came unsealed at his touch, a wet pop and a sucking sound. Into his naked lap poured a slew of squirming white bilge. Smith grinned. He ran his hands through the meaty-smelling muck, fascinated. Between his fingers wriggled the fresh white collops, the seed of the father. It's still not too late, Daddy. Yeah, sure, Smith thought. Of course. The moonlight raged. Jeannie nodded. Smith put his face into the lumpen white slob and began to eat. Jeannie lay on the carpet before the TV, her chin in her little hands. Star Trek was her favorite show. Thank God Bones had put Spock's brain back in last night. Upstairs, Smith thrilled. I don't believe it. What deer? A black-throated blue warbler. Wow. Ah, well. He set down the binoculars and lay next to Donna in bed. It wouldn't be long now. She kissed him and smiled. Smith smiled too, and gently stroked the great gravid belly beneath the nightgown. It was bloated and lovely, stretched pinprick tight and so warm. He put his ear to it and listened. He could hear them in there. Donna fell asleep in his arms. Smith stroked the precious belly. He couldn't wait to see what came out. The wrong guy. We sure made a mess of him, Gwendolyn remarked. Rena cut a wicked grin. Yeah, neat, huh? Neither woman, by the way, wore panties. As they each leaned over the big open trunk of the clay red 76 Malibu, this fact would be obvious to any onlooker. Not that there would be any onlookers in proximity to the old Governor's Bridge at close to 4:30 in the morning. Nevertheless, the further over these two women leaned, the more of their backsides, i.e. rumps, i.e. gluteus maximi, i.e. asses, peeked out from beneath their shortish skirts. Rena wore tight blue leather. Wendlin wore a more mature Ralph Lauren Mavy chino wrap. It's weird that the chicken is done by Wheeze and Weeds and Break His Berries and Break His Dark Screen. This one was fun, Rena said. Well, but that's not true. Yes, Wendlin agreed. I know that I will find it. A real screen. Pun intended. Well, Rena giggled. One less pretty hyphen boy motherfucker to a 5 hyphen front the society of women. Moonlight dappled their well-lined backs and legs, wavering through high trees. An owl hooted. Below them, the gentle stream burbled over stones. They both wore latex gloves as they tended to the corpse. Just because they were impulsive didn't mean they were stupid. They'd read all about the state police carbon dioxide lasers and special resin treatments that could lift fingerprints off human skin. No way these two gals were going to get caught. Wendlin couldn't imagine anything more dreadful, doing life in the state slam, the dyke wing. She was not adverse to the pleasures of a woman, but eating some 300-pound cell block mama's crusty coos every night did not strike her as a pleasure. No indeed. Shit. Rena suddenly fretted. Where's his? Wendlin paused with the pliers, blaring, I have no place where that sound will say. And, God, you're so careless sometimes, Rena. You better find it. Did you leave it at the house? Dash. Rena blinked. The perfect saddle of the image was gone. I don't think so. What about your purse? Did you put it in your purse? Ooh. Rena, you should stand in front of a fan to change the air in your head. Honestly. Well, I'm sorry. Rena whined, close to lacrimating. I don't remember what I did with it. Wendlin shook her head. Kids, she dismissed. So unaware. Rena was only 23 and quite flighty sometimes. Wendlin, 6 years older, viewed her in a sense as a sister. That is, at least when they weren't licking up each other's vaginal grooves. Sisters didn't generally partake in such practices. This was more an esoteric thing, a psyche-cal social bond, perhaps. They were sisters of the ether. What had this one's name been? Will? Wendlin thought. She'd never been good with names. Walt. There, that was it. They'd picked Walt up, without much effort, at Caggies, one of the ruckus dance clubs downtown. Walt was one of those guys too good-looking for his own good. Rena and Wendlin weren't too shabby themselves, mind you. They had the tackle to drag them in just as pretty as you please. Rena stood slim, trim, and alabaster-skinned, with short-cut, shiny black hair. Wendlin appeared more robust. A big, sturdy, curvaceous frame of plush flesh, with silken, straight white-skinned, with gem-eyes and crisp tan lines. They rarely had trouble making a mark, and were always meticulously careful not to be seen leaving with a victim. Which might be worth pointing out now that not only were Wendlin and Rena diverse, voracious, attractive, and highly sexualized women, they were also what psychosiatrists would clinically label as systematized stage sociopaths with acute erotomanic impulses. Sex killers would be a less articulate label. Murderesses, pure ass-crazy psycho bitches. Their philosophy was societal and rather militant in its feministic design. Never mind that they were fucked up in the head, abused, malnourished, and locked in closets as children, now adapted via unbridled drug and alcohol use and hence damaged of certain critical brain receptors, and, in general, ref with a plethora of environmentally causated personality disorders and biogenic amine imbel, 90s. They saw themselves instead as philosophers of the new dark age of sexual terror, chameleon siren songs of the nihilistic snidies. They did not perceive men, for instance, as individuals, but as a cyclic and conspiratorial consortium bent on the total subjugation, exploitation, and sexual abuse of womanhood. They were pioneers of a sort, social guerrillas. Their manifesto was thus: since the beginning of civilization, man had freely and unconscionably exploited women. It was high time, therefore, that someone started exploiting them back. Which led them, in their zeal, to some particularly brow-raising extremities. Walt, for example, guilty by association. No doubt he'd exploited dozens, if not hundreds of women with his looks and his phony charm. They'd taken him back to the house for a nightcap. Rena had his penis out before they even made it to the bedroom, her deft little hand exploring away on the burgeoning meat. That's all men were to them, meat. They shared the remote little rancher Wendlin's father had left her after his unfortunate suicide back in '88. He'd passed out drunk at his desk one night, after which Wendland had helped him along into the netherworld via a vintage Webley 455 revolver. Talk about a mess. And loud. Dad's brains looked like bloody chicken salad slopped across the fine lime and avocado print wallpaper. Anyway, now, I'm not going to die. I'm frightened, and I can't barely die. Kinky babes, huh? Walt had commented when Rena produced the 4 sets of handcuffs from the box under the bed. You game. They're just for atmosphere, she'd assured him. Trick cuffs, see. She put one on and demonstrated that a sin-play tug would release the locking ratchet. These cuffs, in truth, however, were not trick cuffs at all, but Peerless Model 26 police-issue detention cuffs. The real McCoy. And what she hadn't shown the snide, cocky smiling. And now fully erect Walt was the tiny shim she kept pressed against the ratchet during her demonstration. In other words, unbeknownst to Walt, once they got him stripped down and cuffed to the big brass bed, he was in there for the long haul. Rena and Wendland stripped each other then, while Walt watched gaga-eyed from his low, comfy vantage point. He looked quite silly now, handcuffed to a bed with his penis sticking up like a pulsing tumescent root. Yeah, this is hell, ain't it? Walt joked next when his 2 suitors commenced with the tongue bath. Yeah, some tough life, I'll tell you. Shut up, Wall, Wendland felt like saying, alternately licking his testicles. Rena gave Walt's mouth something to do besides jabber, inserting a nipple into it and instructing, lie. Suck, Walt. Just keep quiet and suck. Walt sucked, with no reservations. Rena's breasts, eye hooters, eye rib mells, eye tits, were smallish, yet quite interesting, pointed, with bounce, and ornamented by big distended brownish cones. While Wendland proved more conventional in regards to the mystic thing known as the human mammalian carriage, a formidable rack of firm buoyant 38Ds with large tank areolae and nipple ends akin to thimbles. An equal distinction existed, respective of the manner in which they maintained the outer geography of their sexual real estate. Rena had spent serious money electrolocalizing the entirety of her pubis, while Wendland preferred a more unruly state of affairs, displaying a big, dense, extrude light-blonde bush. And it was into this same bush that next the shaft of Walt's sexual architecture eagerly disappeared. Wendland very articulately responded, ooh, to this gesture, as Rena masturbated to the frictive and delicious sensation of having her coney nipples sucked. Wendland rode him a while, then queried, ready, Rena? Out popped the nipple from Waif's lips. After that, and, she said. Ready for what? Walt breathily inquired as Wendland's gorgeous broad bottom continued to rise and plunge. It was her own curiosity that founded this latest escapade. During a short stint as a nursing assistant, she'd read in the American Journal of Psychiatry an article about sex usual response during that ever-rare occasion of female-to-male rape. This article claimed that when threatened by death or grievous injury, the human body would respond to any demand that might increase the likelihood of survival. In other words, for instance, if a man with a gun to his head was told to fuck, by golly, those libidinal hormones would make damn sure he was able to, maintaining an erection in spite of the undeniably non-arousing circumstances. Only it was not a gun that Rena produced from the macabre toy box under the bed. It was a pair of tin snips. Holy fucking shit! Walt yelled, as would most any man in this same predicament. Quiet, Walt, and listen. Wendland eased all the way down on Walt's cock, adroitly flexing her vaginal muscles as she explained the details of this latest sociopathic symposium. But this is what it is. It's this simple. I'm going to fuck you, and if you go soft on me, Rena here will cut off your cock with those tin snips. Is that perfectly clear? About the only thing perfectly clear to Walt just then was that he was in some shit of monumental death. He responded quite stupidly, as men often do, by avoiding the question. He jerked his wrists against the cuffs, and with great befuddlement exclaimed, "These aren't trick cuffs." "No, Walt, they're not," Rena replied, displaying the hard steel heavy-gauge snips. "But this is me, and it doesn't look to me like there's a whole hell of a lot you can do about that." Snip, snip, whispered the tin snips in the air. Wendland, with lewd grin and narrowed eyes, soon found that the American Journal of Psychiatry was quite accurate in their claim Walt's cock, despite this freight of human terror, did not surrender one iota of its fungal turgidity. If anything, it grew even more stiff within the damp, excited confines of Wenwin's reproductive channel, vaginal pass, birth canal, pussy. Reno, meanwhile, opened and closed the tin snips before Waite's bulging eyeballs, explicating, "We're killers, Walt. Snip, snip, snip. And we've murdered over a dozen men in the last year. Snip, snip, snip. I'll bet that makes your cock just want to go limp as an overcooked noodle." Walt's cock did no such thing. Remaining stiff as a polished nightstick, Wendlin leaned forward in her greedy straddle, accelerating the pace of the Congress, until her flexing, well-lubricated loins gave way in luscious, throbbing, thrumming orgasm. "There," Rena consoled, smiling down between her unique, elongated breasts. She patted his tummy. Wendlin climbed off. "You did it, Walt. You're a stand-up guy." Yeah, you're gonna let me go now, right?" Walt asked. "No, not the pecking story." No, Walt," Rena answered. We're going to cut your cock off." Walt was quite understandably outraged by this bit of information, and he began to snap his ankles and wrists madly, and quite uselessly, against their stainless steel fetters, blubbering, But you said if I didn't go soft." Yeah, you wouldn't." "Don't be a dodo, Walt," Rena suggested, delighted by his state of prostrate and inescapable horror. "Don't be stupid." Wendlin's pretty face grew alight in the knowing grin. "We just got done telling you that we're killers, and if we're killers, it only stands to reason that we're probably liars too." The tin snips slowly opened, like jaws. Walt began to scream as Rena began to snip, which left them now in their current quandary at precisely 4:26 in the morning, parked on the old Governor's Bridge. Rena desperately rummaged through the Malibu's cargo hold size trunk. Where was it? Where was Walt's dick? Rena started crying. "Oh, now." Wendlin tried to soothe her, rubbing her back. "Don't worry about it. It's not like he can be identified by his cock." This was true, unless of course the police had some secret new system of genital identification. Wendlin smiled to herself. Perhaps one day she'd open the fridge and see a picture of Walt's dick printed on a milk carton. There were, however, some other things that Walt definitely could be identified by, 32 of which Wendlin now went to considerable effort to take care of. Before the nursing job, she'd been a dental technician, but that didn't make the task of extracting Walt's teeth any less laborious. The pliers were difficult to manipulate in such limited oral space. Eventually, though, she managed to get them all out of Walt's dead maw, whereupon she placed them all into a small cloth sack. Rena was still crying, rummaging. She was checking the toolbox, for God's sake, and the plastic cooler they used when they went to the beach. "Oh, Wendy, I'm sorry. Where could it be? Did I leave it on the dresser with the keys, the kitchen counter?" "Rena, I told you. Forget about his cock. Here, help me get him out." They traveled then to lifting out the plastic drop cloth in which the deader-than-daub shit Walt had been carefully becloaked. Rena hammered the little bag of teeth against the asphalt with a 4-pound sledge until all were sufficiently pulverized. Wendlin, meanwhile, removed the glass flask, one of many perks of working in a hospital, and emptied its teeming contents onto Walt's remaining identifiable features. The concentrated nitric acid made short work of the hands and feet, fizzing away any and all ridge prints, loops, whorls, and bifurcations. Walt's face, too, bubbled away with equal steaming vigor. The unappreciated separation of his genitals from his groin, by the way, had not of itself spelled Walt's demise. He'd screamed loud and hard as a horn on a semi-rig, thrashing amid his peerless handcuff trap, but had surprisingly not died. Nor had Wendwin's delvings with the Clay Adams brand bivaling scalpel done the trick. It got quite ugly, Walt screaming like that, and thrashing away with no penis. Blood gushed like great falls. Eventually, Rena had stuck a knitting needle up his nose, driving it back with her palm deep into the meat of Walt's parietal lobe. She jiggled it around a few times, until he checked out. No. As shame about his face, Weena lamented now, looking down in the moonlight. As well as the chickinator, he could have been on the cover of GQ. Not anymore. Fangoria, maybe. Say goodnight, Walt. They hefted up either end of the drop cloth and rolled it over the rusty metal bridge rail. Cuss splash. The moonlight rippled spectacularly. Then they were driving away, off into the warm, star-chipped night. "Wendy, Look, Rena celebrated, bending over in the passenger seat. I found Walt's dick. So she had. Somehow, Walt's severed member had found its way to the footwell. Now I remember. Jay brought it along to diddle with while we were driving out. Rena picked it up, and ever the comedian slid back her blue leather skirt and held Walt's now seriously shriveled cock to her clitoris, spreading her trim legs. Look, Wendy, I've got a penis. I'm a man. Wenfin rolled her eyes behind the wheel. You're so silly sometimes. Honestly, she took the wizened tiling and flipped it out the window, where eventually it would be eaten by possums. Wenlin expertly plunged the dual Doc Johnson vibrators in and out of Rena's off-pink vulva and rectum, licking the swollen clitoris. Rena squirmed, sighing through her grin, as Claudius, the largest of her 3 pet hognose snakes, slithered about her belly and pointed breasts. Rena was possessed of some rather left-field eccentricities, several of which Wendlin was hard-pressed to tolerate. Heineken douches, bullfrog stuffing, electric Benoit balls up her ass whilst in public, plus snakes. They'd met at North County General, where Rena was a floor receptionist. Wendlin, a Class 1 nurse's aide, caught Rena masturbating in the janitorial closet one night, with a polypropylene bacticapillol culture tube and hemostats clipped to her nipples. Oops, Rena had said. Instead of filling out an employee negligence report, Wendlin had sealed their friendship by immediately planting her big blonde pubis in Rena's face. Their careers, though, had ended rather expeditiously. Rena had been fired for stealing an array of controlled pharmaceuticals from the nurse's station, while Wendlin, shortly thereafter, had received her walking papers for gross sexual misconduct upon the hospital premise. A staff doctor had pulled back a privacy curtain in an end ICU cove to discover the ever-curious Wendlin fastidiously filleting a male critical coma patient. I wanted to see if a brain-dead person could come, she'd explained. You're fired, the doctor had replied. Oh well. Nevertheless, their friendship remained, and to make a long exposition short, they soon found a vivid compatibility in their ravenous sexualities as well as their sociopathies. In no time at all, they were murdering men at about a rate of 1 a month, through all manner of demented imagination, gastric lavage with Clorox, non-anesthetic live dissection, brain surgery with power tools, and acts of genital mayhem that could only be described as big time. Once they'd catheterized a bartender and filled his bladder with 5W30 grade motor oil, then ice-picked his lower abdomen to watch the oil ooze out. Another time, Wendlin was blowing some dope they'd picked up at the races. Rena had clipped off his testicles at the precise moment of his climax. Once they'd even dissected a penis on a living patient, removing all the skin and the entire scrotum, after which Rena had clipped off the raw shaft a 1/4 inch at a time. This guy had screamed so loud they'd had to put cotton in their ears. One pickup had gotten rude with them, actually hailing such invectives as bitches, lesbos, psychopath. Wendlin had opened his anus with a pair of rectal retractors stolen from the hospital, while Rena, with more than a smidgen of difficulty, had inserted Tiberius, one of her pet hognose snakes, into the offender's bowel. Tiberius had churned away for quite some time in there, before finally giving up the ghost while their unmannerly companion had screamed shock-eyed and blue in the face. Poor Tiberius, Rena regretted. She'd finished the man off by carefully drilling a shallow hole in his skull with a 1/4-inch Kerbin bit, then slowly inserting long carpet needles and autopsy pins into the hole. Genital electrocution, ground glass in our boiling bacon grease enemas, ice picks in the ears and our eyes, Coca-Cola blood transfusions, total body fluncing, and of course what Rena referred to as dick scarfing. Nothing would get a fella screaming faster and louder than having his pride and joy and family jewels nimbly chewed off by a pair of crazier than shithouse rats militant feminism. No sir. You name it, Wendlin and Rena did it, much to the disconsolation of many a man, and all in the name of their righteous ideology to vindicate roughly 70 centuries of subjugation. Plus, it was fun, at least from the standpoint of a clinical sociopath. One thing they never considered, though, was the possibility that sooner or later they might pick the wrong guy. Larry seemed a little fat and doty. Pickings were slim some nights. He provided at least the necessary prerequisites, your typical gaping, gawping, lustful cockhound, nutchase feel, own fuck, and forget him man. At the bar, Larry's eyes had been all over them, and eventually so had his hands. He'd plied them with drinks and smothered them with overtly suggestive remarks, foremost of which was, "What say we get out of this gin joint? I could show you two babes a really hot time." He'd actually winked then, and gave Rena's little rump a pat. Gwendolyn smirked. A hot time? She thought. We'll see who shows who a hot time. She got wet just thinking about it. Back at the house, Larry had offered no protestations whatsoever to Rena's trick cuffs. "I'm easy." He chuckled as they cuffed him down. Knockhead. He looked like dough stretched out on the bed. Beer gut, no muscles. But, Gwendolyn considered. Abash prizing his works, which, despite their flaccidity, looked very promising. Rena sat at once on his face, her sleek back to the wall, as Gwendolyn perked him up with her hand. "Ladies want to touch me." Jesus Christ. Rena delighted. "What? You're going to need a shoehorn to sit on all of that." "You ain't kidding," Gwendolyn thought, plying the hardening tube of flesh. "Larry's genitals bloomin'," Gwendolyn smiled giddily. "The chickenator will give the chicken. Will never come. This looks like something that should hang in a smokehouse." Larry easily sported a 12-inch root with the girth of a pony bottle. Gwendolyn reveled in its shape, its colossal well-formed glands, fat veins, and a urethral ingress big enough to admit her pinky. Even his testicles were monsters, heavy and hot, and large as jumbo grade A eggs. Gwendolyn wasted no time in mounting this wonderful gorged pole, which actually nudged the cap of her cervix each time she rode down. She and Rena faced each other now, both murmuring and rolling their eyes at Larry's oral and copulatory prowess. "Let's talk about fashion. His tongue must be as big as his cock." Rena was very happy to relate, gritting her teeth through a lascivious grin. "Uri, feels like it's going right up my fucking uterus." "He can fuck too," Gwendolyn assured, grinning much the same. This was so good so slow and luscious and hot, she was actually drooling. "Fucking my foot," she thought. "This isn't fucking. It's deep so slow and luscious and hot, she was actually drooling." Indeed, Larry's penis felt more akin to one of those extra long tubes of chocolate chip cookie dough. This thing was squeezing her G-spot, her flat against her anterior wall. Shit, she didn't even know she had a G-spot until now. Gwendolyn's reproductive orifice was no stranger to phalli of above-average proportions, but this was ridiculous. That Miller pony bottle girth stretched her vulva out to a tight, delicious bright pink rim, plowing steadfast as a derrick wheel, while the length continued to plumb the absolute extremities of the tract of her womanhood. She felt skewered. Gwendolyn dash kebab. Quicking multiple orgasms went off deep in her loins like subsurface demolition. Her vagina pulsed and pulsed, wringing pleasure out of her nerves much the same as a hand wringing milk out of a cow's gorged teat. Exhausted then, she switched positions with Rena, who immediately exclaimed, "It's like fucking a rolling pin, Wendy," as she inserted the elephantine penis into her slick bald snatch. Gwendolyn found no exaggeration in Rena's previous affirmation. When she pressed her own downy blonde snatch to Larry's face, a tongue of utmost dimensions delved at once up into the beslickened furrow. She came again in minutes, leaving Larry's face shiny as wet shellac. And then Rena too tensed up and shuddered in wave upon wave of deepest orgasm, at which time Larry's own crisis unloosed. Warm gouts of semen, fat as worms, rocketing up into the squirming purse of flesh. Rena's face strained, her hands opened on his belly as she squealed in glee. "He's coming in me like a fucking garden hose." "Who?" Larry replied, laxing back against the handcuffs. "That was one dandy nut. I knew you girls were hot, and we're gonna get a lot hotter," Gwendolyn promised. Larry didn't notice Rena leaving the room, too engrossed via the next distraction, the application of Gwendolyn's mouth to the flaccid, veined penis. It didn't remain